Welcome to Life, Love, and Good Stuff. Father and daughter chats with David and Sophie McCallum. Here we discuss seeing and living life through the lens of self-love, how family relationships and life experiences hinder or fuel an authentic, rewarding life. A life filled with conscious, compassionate self-love. And sometimes we just have a good chat. Actor David McCallum has appeared in theater, film, and television and is a critically acclaimed author. David's most enduring roles include the Russian agent Ilya Kuryakin in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Dr. Donald Ducky Mallard on the CBS hit NCIS. Sophie McCallum was born in New York City where she lives today. Sophie's a certified life coach but specializes in self-love coaching as the SelfLove Peddler. Sophie is an energy leadership master practitioner and strives to start each day with love in her heart for herself and the world around her. Hello. Nice way to start it.
Best offer I've had all day.
All week. Today, what I would
Super Bowl day.
Super Bowl Sunday. It's a beautiful winter snowy wonderland where we are. And food. Food. We're a family of food lovers. Seriously.
People say, well, do you diet? Or what do they say? What's your diet? And I say, I don't have a diet. I don't try not to eat too much. But the reason I started cooking was simply I absolutely love to eat.
Me too.
I think eating is one of the great pleasures. And when it becomes a science, books on how not to eat because it'll do all these dreadful things to you, I say, forget it. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm going to eat it when I want to eat it. But I'm not going to eat too much if I can help it.
I can't always help it.
That's why I hate restaurants.
You don't hate restaurants.
I hate restaurants.
You don't hate restaurants.
I dislike restaurants intensely because they give you a wonderful plate of food and all I want to do is eat a little bit and take all the rest home.
But that's why I like the healthy restaurants you guys all mock me for. Like, remember Cafe Gratitude that I brought you to in California? You did not like that.
No, that was a dreadful place. I don't actually remember it, but I remember it was dreadful.
I take you to the restaurants that are ridiculously healthy, and Peter, my brother, takes you to the restaurants that are ridiculously unhealthy.
We came into this and I said I like the pleasure of eating.
Well, and I find healthy food pleasurable.
I'm so glad you do. I once worked with an actor called Robert Vaughan, which you may know about.
I've heard of him.
And he was a health food freak.
I never knew that.
Way back then, he was very careful about eating, and he had one restaurant he used all the time, which was health food, a health restaurant.
It was called Health Food?
No, I don't know what the hell it was called. It was on Santa Monica Boulevard, and down there. It's all changed now. And he took me there, and I was so sick for 2 days afterwards. Never told him.
All right, well, we love food, and although I love healthy food, I have an appreciation of all kinds of food. And although I have not had, a lot of animal in a long time, I can cook it all. And that's because of you. So tell me about how you learned to cook, where you learned to cook, when you learned to cook.
Well, I know the war, we're back to World War II, because I grew up at home with rationing, and they sent us the meat ration, which was a little thing like this. And you're allowed so much butter and so many eggs, 2 eggs a week or something.
Was that based on how many people in your home? Or was it?
Yes, yes, of course. And Mother was very clever when they issued the books that you cut out with the coupons so you could buy stuff. She had them all, David McCallum. It didn't matter which one of us it was. That allowed her great sort of latitude in where she
you're almost all D. McCallums, except for you.
Yeah. Well, he became D just for the purposes
of for the rations?
Getting through the war. And Father also was a musician with lots of musician friends, and some of them were, I'm sorry to say in some ways, but they had an access to the American PX stores, I believe. And he'd come home with a tin of bacon, and you'd open it up and slide this great log out and open it out, and there was bacon. And Mother did genius things with the fat, of course. We had one thing that we created together. We took carrots and potatoes and cooked them and grate them and mashed them all together with a tiny bit of bacon fat, salt and pepper. It was delicious. You could make a pie out of it too and bake it. And we called it Lord Woolton.
Why?
He was the Minister of Food during the war. I mean, it's all crazy, but she, apart from one or two violent moments, she got at one point a raspberry pudding from the American PX stores, which was a tin. And it was a pudding, and you were supposed to put 2 holes in the top. You put it in boiling water and let it simmer on the stove. She put it on the stove in the boiling water, but refrained from putting the holes in it. So we were finishing up the entree or whatever we were eating, and there was this tremendous bang from the kitchen. And when we went in, there was raspberry jam all over the ceiling. It had blown into the entire room. And we stood there roaring with laughter, all of us. We thought it was the funniest thing we'd ever seen. And then, of course, a lot of the food, when we were evacuated, which we've talked about, off to Scotland, when we stayed with Auntie Margaret McCallum at Dallata, all the food would come in a truck or in trucks. The baker would come, the butcher would come, the fishmonger would come. The grocer would come, and you got out to the thing, Margaret would with a basket, she'd buy all she needed and come in and cook lunch and dinner. And they came every day, I think, or every other day.
So they came to one location and you went there, or they came to the house?
No, they came from house to house to house. They parked so that 3 or 4 houses you could come out. Mm-hmm. But then it was all, like scurly and Scottish oatmeal and ashet pies, and which I again have mentioned to you before. But the food was so different, and fresh baked bread and everything. But it was whole wheat and healthy.
It was all fresh.
It was all fresh that day. Out of the field probably that night.
Well, plastic and preservatives didn't exist, so that's a game changer with food.
There was no plastic. Yeah. No, plastic had not been invented. Well, I suppose it had.
It had, but not used
later on. It was Bakelite, and that was radios and things. But food packaging was always. You very often took your own containers, and they would fill that up, and you take that home. But
that's being revisited.
There was a tremendous influence in my life in Scottish food, which is soups and stews and, all those wonderful, where you take a whole lot of vegetables and make a wonderful soup and things.
Let me ask you, have you felt as if you have never lived up to your true potential? Do you hear a voice inside telling you that you're destined for more? Are you craving to love yourself more and live a fuller life? Welcome. My name is Sophie, and I'm your personal self-love peddler. I've created a program that allows you to forge into your most authentic life by guiding you on how to fully self-love. When we love ourselves and hold the space needed to learn about ourselves, our internal voice becomes crystal clear. When we start to listen to that voice, we begin to start living the life of our dreams. The path to getting there is paved with self-love. If you're a woman who does not stop to tune into self-care, to listen to yourself, if you ignore all the red flags and all the signs telling you that you are worth more, then you are exactly who this program is meant for. With the Flourish and Fly Learning How to Self-Love program, you will finally find the answers you have been seeking inside of yourself. We know children and even plants grow and learn best when surrounded by love, compassion, and encouragement. Guess what? So do grown-ass women. The women who work with me learn to nurture their true selves by turning their love inward, to grow and learn, to flourish and fly. If you're struggling with self-love and are nodding your head, yes, please click the link below and join me inside of this program. I cannot wait to guide you to flourish and fly with love.
And then went back in London, when we got back down to London, my brother, who was 4 years older than I was,
Ian,
no longer with us, regrettably. But Ian and I got up in the morning and went to school. Mother said, she had an operation which I believe they removed one of her kidneys, but she said it's because there was something wrong with it. And I believe, she said to me, it's perfectly all right because I have another kidney. You can function on one kidney. But she said, I'd really like to sleep in the morning. Do you mind getting breakfast? So I was...
How old are you?
No idea, probably 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. A child, definitely not a teenager or an adult. This was well before that. And I would get up every morning and I'd make, put the bacon and eggs and stuff, and whatever father had brought home, made the toast. But and oatmeal, porridge. What do you call it? Oatmeal.
Steel cut oats. You make a lot.
Always steel cut oats. Usually soaked from the night before and then cooked for at least 20 minutes.
Which you and my Ian have done together many times.
Yes, the real thing, the real Scottish thing. And Scully is the same thing, where you take that particular kind of oatmeal and you fry it in bacon fat with onions and put lots of pepper with it. And normally it comes in a casing and you slice it and then fry it in a little.
That's not my thing.
So, but none of that food was, you were going out with bare legs, with shorts on, going across the fields to the school. You needed a diet of that kind of, giving your body a certain fortitude towards the weather, against the weather. So that was my mother, and then she would, very early on, she taught me how to do a white sauce. Is it bechamel?
Bechamel.
An ounce of flour, an ounce of butter, and just let it brown slightly. And then some people boil the milk and pour the milk in. I just put the cold milk in and kept stirring and salt and pepper. And you could do lots of things with that.
You taught me how to do that at a young age.
Yeah.
At a young age.
And then, of course, that was when you had your Evelyn Bennett. With her slightly Jamaican accent. Yeah. I taught her to make a macaroni cheese, which is exactly done that way. You do the bechamel.
That's where you taught me. Yeah.
Add the cheese to it, and then cook the macaroni separate, and then make a pie.
We had about 5 staple dinners growing up.
Yeah,
when you were here, or you taught Evie to do it. Mom didn't have any of it. Meatloaf with the tomato paste crust. Mm-hmm. Tuna noodle casserole. We had that old broiler. Remember at the bottom of the stove that you would pull out? And we would do hamburgers on the broiler with cheddar cheese on English muffins. Amazing. Mm-hmm. And breaded chicken.
Tomato paste on the English muffins. Don't forget that.
Tomato paste on everything. Breaded chicken and also flounder.
Well, I cooked breaded chicken with olive.
And the other night I made a stir fry, and on top I made breaded tofu in the air fryer. It was not good. It was not good at all. It didn't have the same, tofu, but I tried.
The fact that they gave it such a dreadful name.
Oh, the tofu is not so bad. But I also remember Mummy did cook occasionally, and one thing she would make for me, and I remember sitting in Central Park at the 72nd Street boat pond under a tree by a sandbox that's still there that my dogs like to sprint around every morning. But having, it was Pepperidge Farm whole wheat bread with mayo, tomato paste, and Munster cheese. And it sounds gross, but man.
It's wonderful, yeah.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
And you can panini it too. It's good.
I didn't do that in the 70s. Nobody was paniniing in the 70s.
Nobody was paniniing in the 70s. Well, then, of course, I did the movies, and one of the earliest movies. Was it the first one I did? Practically. The producer's wife was from Pakistan, and I spent a lot of time.
What movie is this?
It was called in England The Secret Place, directed by Clive Donner, who went on to do. I think he did Mel Gibson and what's his name? What are they called?
Lethal Weapons?
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, those are
movies.
great
I think that
movies.
could have been Clive, but there were. No, that wasn't. That was one of the directors who did The Man from U.N.C.L.E. who went on to do it's a very complex. But she taught me the curries. And then when I went to Africa, I already had a palate that liked spicy food. So when I was with the regiment and they were cooking lunch for them in literally a missionary pot, where you could boil a missionary with all the jokes of, the bones sticking out. Yep. Politically, terribly not a good
For
idea.
another time.
But no, because that particular cooks that cooked for that thing, they taught me all the African curries, which is the addition of peanut butter and well, actually they just ground thousands of peanuts throughout. They had like a mangle, or what do you call it? And you just crush tomatoes and red peppers and things, and it would all go into they use cassava root there.
That's made a comeback.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, aren't you thrilled?
But you get a big piece of cassava and a nice piece of the curry, and there's also a little bit of mutton with it. That's one of the regrets in America. You can't buy mutton, and it's a beautiful. They only have lamb. They don't let them grow old
I
enough.
could find you mutton in Queens, I bet.
Yeah, you're probably at the same place you buy your goat milk and goat cheese.
I make my own milk. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I milk the oats myself.
Goat curry is something that you have to learn how to do.
No, I don't.
I told you about the Italian. Have we talked about the Italian day we left the house?
No.
We were in Parano in Italy
where my ex-husband's family
lived. And down in the basement of this medieval house was dark and full of iron machinery and dust. And really, Dracula would be very happy down there. The reason I went down there was that the chef, they had a capri, they had a goat. And would I cook it for supper that night? I said, sure, do anything you want.
This is at the Capretta, right?
No, this is actually at the house.
Oh, it's at the house, okay.
Next door to the church.
Right, yeah.
Down in the bowels with the brother down the road there. Anyway, there was a butcher block thing. And this woman, his Vittorio's cook, was hacking at it with a cleaver. Talk about Dracula. These great blows, and there's this animal, dead animal there. And I looked at it and I said, no, I was going to cook. I was going to cook lamb, that's what it was. So I was expecting a lamb. But this animal lying on the thing was a dead goat, skinned, I think. And I said, no. She argued with me in Italian, which was probably, she won the argument very easily. But she said, what do you want? Which pieces? Well, if you know in any animal, this runs down the spine here. It's the tenderloins and all the...
Yeah, but you do know that I haven't eaten meats.
I know that.
In like 500 years.
But this is Italy. That's where they have to eat it.
But you're asking me what I know. I know nothing.
I'm just talking from the point of view of botany, whatever it's called. That's
anatomy.
Anatomy, yes. Anyway, I managed to get that whole thing with the bone whole thing. So I'm carrying this piece of meat up into the kitchen. And then I looked at the stove. Now the stove was something out of Disney. It was very small and the oven very narrow. And I thought, now wait a minute. This is something, if I'm going to cook it, I want to cook in a casserole. So it has to go in the oven. So we take all of this old stuff out of the oven. And then I had to find a dish to put in it. She doesn't have any. There are no dishes. So we go back down into the cellar. And we're looking around, and I finally found a sort of iron pot with a lid.
From 1402?
Yeah, engraved Frankenstein, and we took it upstairs, and so I got lots of vegetables, and what's great there, they had a herb garden, so you can get lots of herbs. So I got lots of herbs, some nice, good, very good red wine, and this goat, which I, seared, and put it all together, put it in the oven, put it to 350 degrees, which I had done the calculation, whatever the Italian numbers were, which are nothing like ours. And I said, it needs about 3 hours to cook. It's goat. It's got, no, I said, no. So this thing is cooking away quietly, and then they say, we are going to Oviedo. I said, well, why? He said, we have to visit an agriturismo. We're thinking of buying an agriturismo. So I said, okay. So I set the oven a little lower, and we left, because I figured we'd be back in 3 hours. We were back in 5 hours. And for the last 2, I'm thinking, if it's gone dry, not only is the house going to be full of smoke, right, we don't have dinner. But what happened was, this oven and that temperature and what I had done and the amount of liquid I put in and the wine, they all said, sitting down to dinner, it was the most delicious thing they'd ever tasted.
People are drooling. We're listening to this.
So
even I'm
wonderful.
drooling.
I mean, just this slow cooking of this beautiful. You couldn't get meat much fresher. God damn, she was hacking it to pieces. That's probably why you're a vegetarian or
no, I was. Whenever I was pregnant, I craved meat. And in Italy one year, I was eating meat, and we had wild boar ribs, and the thing was running around behind the capretto, 20 minutes before we ate it, and it was exceptional. Yeah. I'm all for, if you're going to eat meat, go catch it, see what it's all about.
Yeah, well, we were near Portofino, and we were walking down a hill, and a whole squad of boar came by, father, mother, uncle, and all the kids behind them. Mm-hmm. And I said to Catherine, look at that, oh my God, can you imagine what that would taste like? She never saw it. She said, what?
Yeah,
gone.
I'm glad.
You missed it. But they're pretty dangerous animals, to be careful.
Smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Tasty. Yeah.
Well,
but so, you learn as you go along. What the rule of cooking is, if you cook something and it doesn't taste very nice, throw it out and call McDonald's, but don't eat it. It's so, some people would like to cook, and they cook things and they get so uptight about serving it to people, and they don't like it, and so they say, I can't cook, which is ridiculous. Anybody can cook. The great thing I find is the presentation on the plate. Mm. And Val, he loves doing the same thing.
My brother.
Val loves to do that. So we actually send, if it's a really nice plate, we send the photographs to each other of what we're having for supper.
That's beautiful.
That's nice, yeah.
That is love. That is beautiful.
That is nice. I swore I'd never be a cake maker or do a millefeuille or something like that.
It's
a Napoleon, I believe, is the other name.
It's a tricky cycle once you start making that stuff.
Well, cakes and things. And
I love to cook, and people always want my recipes, and I don't have any because I'm an intuitive cook. A little of this, little of that. I never measure, and so when I try to bake, it's problematic. Because you have to measure, and I'm such
I got a little
throw it against the wall and see what sticks kind of girl.
Does grams, so I do it to exact.
Yeah, no.
Especially whole wheat bread, when you're mixing a little white flour with semolina flour with whole wheat flour, when you're making the combinations. But I find the saddest thing is that as you get older, you don't need so many calories, so you can't. The amounts become stupid.
That starts in your 30s. You're supposed to that's why a lot of people gain weight as they get older is your caloric necessities because you're not
500
growing.
calories per year annum every
No.
10 years.
Yeah.
Starting there. So the
Right,
time you get to
exactly.
my age, which is
You can have
close
300
to
calories
90,
a day, Dad.
it's three. No, it's not. It's 1,200. It's just over 1,000 calories. Now I can have that for breakfast, and then I'm screwed for the rest of the day. What do you do?
Well, you
So
know what
the
you
answer
can
is-
do. You eat what you love, and your weight falls where it falls, and you accept it. That's what I do.
You got that right. It's where I am.
Yeah. It's called intuitive
Except
eating.
when I go for my checkups with my doctor.
That's
Then
cheap.
I don't eat for 48 hours, and by the time I'm starved to death, I walk in his office and I'm the same number that I was last time.
But you
then
say
I go
that.
out, come home, and have a nice.
But you may mock the tofu, but you've been doing a lot of juicing.
Yeah, I do.
And I have seen, since you've started doing that, a bit of reversal in aging. I mean, juicing is, as long as you eat fiber.
It's a Vitamix.
Right. Well, Vitamix, so you get the fiber. But you've been doing a lot more fruits and vegetable drinking, which is so good.
Totally.
Big fan.
And it's funny, if you put a plate of food in front of me with mashed potatoes, meat, some carrots, some peas, and things,
Big plate.
and I start eating, and I discover by the time I'm almost out 2/3 of the way through, I haven't touched the meat.
Yeah.
I'm eating it sort of seems psychologically you get more in tune with the vegetables and
Well, you also, Mom and I just want vegetables, and you've lived with us a long time. So maybe we've worn off on you.
I tell you, the number of different ways you come up with eggplant and cauliflower.
You cook vegetables so
I cooked
beautifully.
cauliflower the other day.
Oh, it's the best.
And I put fennel. I sliced fennel with it.
Did you roast it?
No, I steamed the cauliflower and steamed the fennel together. And then I probably put like a level teaspoon of Nature's Bounds fake butter and salt and pepper. And it was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And the other thing is, I was on television watching a thing the other night, and there was a guy boiling potatoes, and he put a bulb of garlic in the water.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing? And an onion.
And an onion.
And he put that in the water and cooked the potatoes as for normal. Took the potatoes out. They were the little potatoes.
New potatoes.
And then when he was ready to, no, not new, the smallest, not wax either. But he took the potatoes once he was ready to serve dinner and put them in a saute pan, with a little olive oil, and just browned them and heated them up again. And
I love potatoes.
I haven't tried it yet.
I love it. You know what we eat a lot of, because everybody likes them, is Japanese sweet potatoes. I mean, they're white on the inside. I gave you some. You like them. They're not very sweet, but they taste more like a sweet potato than a regular potato, and they are so good.
Your mother doesn't like sweet potatoes.
Well, that's okay. You can still eat them.
I eat the regular potatoes.
I think of, almost anything that I cook, I start with an onion. And I think of your mother every single time because you always told me that she would slice the onion and just work so hard to not waste a single layer.
Yeah.
Because of the war and rations.
I think every time I would cut an onion.
And then I always get frustrated and I rip off that top layer and I feel so guilty. Well, but
that's wartime.
Yeah.
I mean, that night, what was his in California? Hilda, who was my next door neighbor.
Oh, Hilda. And what was her husband?
I would bring stuff home.
Gunther.
I'd bring broccoli home from this. They were throwing all this broccoli out or something by the end of dinner. And I'd bring a bag of it cooked and give it to Hilda. And she would take it and put it into 9 little things and put them in the icebox. I mean, she was...
Well, they were very disciplined.
It's like I switch a light off in a room if I'm not in it. And then if I walk into a room, I switch the light on. Your mother likes to have the lights on. And I realize it's wartime. I mean, it's sort of a vestige, residue of that time. Okay, back to cooking. Your mother's mother, your grandmother, God rest her soul, Kitty, did a course in, she and I got on like a house on fire. We loved cooking. both of us, but she did a course in Chinese cooking. Jim Chen, no, Jim.
In the 60s?
Yeah, probably was, 60s, 70s, before she handed in her portfolio. But she was, I have all her books with all her little notations, but that's when I began using a wok. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about a wok, not a wok.
A real wok, yeah, a seasoned.
And not a plug-in wok. And first thing you do when you bring it home is you cover it in olive oil, put it in the 500-degree oven, and go out to the movies, and come back and it's black. And
don't do that. Black. Stay home. Don't burn your house down.
No, don't. I'm not conventional that way. Anyway, the stir fries and everything, and making my own Chinese pickles, and that again adds to the repertoire of what you're doing. And then I've discovered in the last 20 years that you can take something out of a store like hummus. Is it Sabra? Sabra hummus. And you can have made a really nice vegetable soup and take a big scoop of Sabra thing and put it in to thicken it rather than using cornstarch or whatever.
You know what else is wonderful for that is nutritional yeast and also peanut butter.
Peanut butter, yeah. Well, that's the African curries.
If I had to eat one food for the rest of my life, I would take a spoon and a jar of chunky peanut butter, and I would be perfectly happy.
But it's combining things that normally people don't buy, like the fennel and the cauliflower. I mean, just think up ideas of how to think. And then, of course, you come to what I was really driving at earlier on. The plating. You don't have to do it like those idiot chefs and build this and pile it all up.
They take the paintbrush and
squirt stuff all right.
It's so stupid.
It is so ridiculous. And the classic example is Daniel Boulou in New York, where when you sit down, the bill is $1,400 because you put your bum on the seat.
Right.
And then they bring out these things one after. And they've been squirting stuff all. I mean, it's just.
At the peak of my sort of raw foodness, someone got me a gift certificate for Christmas to this. It's gone, but it was a raw food restaurant in the East Village, and we were sitting it was sort of like a bar, although of course there was no alcohol, so it wasn't actually a bar. But we could sit over and watch the people doing the cooking, and they were using tweezers to cook the meal. And I looked at my husband. I mean, and you got these tiny little plates. You know, once you're eating sprouts that have been cooked with tweezers, you've gone too far. And I think we had pizza when we left.
You kicked off a memory in me. That's being in one of the big stations in London. It's Victoria, or Euston, or one of them. And you sit in a stool, and right in front of you is this thing that goes around and around like that. And in the middle, the chefs are there, and a little like this.
And then you pay by the plate.
You take what you think, and then they take your empty plates. They add them up, and that's
dim sum. Have you ever been to a good dim sum? That's how they usually figure out what you owe is by your plates, which I love. And it's a little embarrassing because I can pack it in.
That's a lovely way to eat because you can choose. That's why I love when you go to any club and it's buffet night. You can sit there and eat all the Jell-O you want and skip everything else. Food is wonderful.
Food is wonderful. Well, we've gone to freshly slaughtered goat, possibly lamb, definitely goat, to Jell-O.
Yeah, to people blowing up cans of raspberry on the ceiling.
And I think we should go eat.
I think it's lunchtime.
I love you. Thank you. Hi, this is Sophie McCallum, and I just wanted to take a minute to thank all of the absolutely exceptional fans of my father's who have been listening to my podcast. I am the SelfLove Peddler. You can find me at selflovepeddler.com. And I work with women, as you know from listening to my podcast, to help them uncover love for themselves so that they can truly get to know themselves, so that they can have these lives that flourish into their wildest dreams. So I didn't originally set out to do a podcast with my dad. I did a podcast with a lot of different people. But the podcast that I did with him, that one episode just resonated with me so much. I just had to keep going. I am so very, very, very blessed to have him in my life and to have my mother in my life. Every day that they are here with me, I know is a gift. And they have really helped me uncover my passion, which is, as I said, helping women uncover their passions. So if you or any loved ones that you know might be interested in working with me, I just launched an amazing course called Flourish and Fly, which is the basics to self-love. It's a super effective, fun, and efficient course that I really enjoyed making. And even when I watched it to make sure everything was in order, I got so much out of it as a viewer. So that was really rewarding to create something and then to profit from it in my proof watching, if you will. I work with women of all ages. You may have granddaughters who you see on social media all the time or on their devices all the time. I know that can be really scary for those of us who don't really know what's going on there. It's a tough time to be a young woman growing up. All women are told that the future is female and that they hold all the cards, yet at the same time they have food, fashion, and diet industries telling them that they're not good enough and that they need to change to be worthy. So it's a tough time. There's a lot of dialogue coming at women from different directions, women of all ages. So just going to promote what I'm offering to the community in case there's a woman in your community, or if you yourself would be interested in checking out my course. I'm really extremely proud of it. Flourish and Fly. It's my calling, getting these things out there. And I really appreciate your help and your encouragement and your support. And for all you male Man from Uncle fans out there, I don't mean to exclude you. Thank you as well. It's a real joy sharing this connection I have with my dad with you. Every time I sit down with him, I learn so much. And sometimes I hear stories that I've heard over and over and over again, and I don't mind it for a minute. And I love that even though I've heard a lot of these stories before, you guys haven't. So it's a real gift to share this. And what's been really fun too is as we go through this process, at first I would come to our recordings with a list of things to discuss. And now when I see my dad, which is very often, we're quite close, he says things like, so I was thinking this would be a good topic, or that would be a good topic. And he's starting to think about this format and this forum that we have together. And he's so sweet. He's always learning, right? And always growing and always trying new things. As many of you know, he's writing his second book right now, and he's all in. And he's also still working full time and flying out to California to work. But he's started to bring topics to the table for us to discuss, such as energy, energy. And that's never been like his forte, his playground, if you will. And it's not that he's taking my lead, it's that he is finding a way to be interested in what interests me. And he knows that through that, he will grow. And we can all learn a lot from him. He's really a special human being. And it's such a pleasure and such a treat for me to be doing this podcast. I hope we do many, 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 many more. And again, this is just a little interruption to say thank you, to plug my job, because I feel so strongly that what I do is providing a service that can help so many, and it brings me so much joy to share it with you. And I'm so glad that I have brought you joy sharing some more of my dad with you. And let's just keep it all going. So thank you. And more to come, I promise. Keep on listening and keep on being your awesome selves. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please hit the subscribe button so you're notified each time a Life, Love, and Good Stuff Father and Daughter Chats with David and Sophie McCallum podcast drops. Until next time, remember to lead with love.